Welcome to another Citrix Session with your host, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton, your source for all things Citrix.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Citrix Session. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. With me, as usual, with 10 for 10 now, Bill Sutton, the Director of Services at XenTegra. How's it going, Bill?
Going well, Andy. How about you?
I'm good. I'm getting over the Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm actually up in Canada working with our XenTegra Canada office, where it's kind of new. We're expecting big things up there, and excited to be up in the Toronto area working with that team today.
Very good.
So, guys, we have with us Vishal Ganeriwala. I think I pronounced that right. According to the Citrix Blog's author site, he is the Senior Director of Technical Marketing for XenApp and XenDesktop. And the fact that it says XenApp and XenDesktop, to me, clues me in that something's not quite right there. Vishal, how's it going?
Good. So kudos to you on pronouncing my last name correctly. It's actually pretty hard. So nice job there. And so you're absolutely right. That reminds me, I guess I need to go back in my profile in my blogs and correct the description, actually. So my current role is Senior Director, Workspace Product Marketing. So excited to be here, Andy, with you and Bill.
Well, great. Thanks for joining us. The blog that we picked after speaking to you that we want to go through is from, trying to figure out the date. November 4th of 2019. And the title of it is Transform Employee Experience with Microsoft Teams and Citrix Workspace. So as you know, Teams is a very popular topic these days with Skype folding into it and the real-time collaboration folding into it and the portal concept that tends to be a big portion of everybody's workflow today in the business. And future workflows within the business. So what we want to do is just kind of go through this article with you and this blog and get your insight into what you were covering here.
No, yeah. So let's talk about it, right? So there are actually a couple of integration points with Microsoft Teams and Citrix Workspace. So, let's get started and clear up a couple of things right away, right?
So Vishal, before you do that, you did a really good job introducing the topic here in your intro in the blog. Do you kind of want to recap a little bit of why this is important before we jump into the hows and what it does?
Yeah, and so Microsoft Teams, when I wrote this blog and the stats I provided in the blog was close to 13 million people are now using Microsoft Teams every day. That stat was from actually July 2019. After my blog on November 19th, Microsoft announced that now Microsoft Teams has 20 million daily active users. That's just mind-blowing to me. And if there's a tool out there which has around 20 million daily active users, we certainly want integration with that, one of the most popular collaboration tool out there. So both Citrix and Microsoft have been working pretty closely on the Teams optimization piece, but a lot of customers wanted to know, how does Citrix Workspace integrate with Microsoft Teams? Or why do I need to work in both? And what's the relationship? So there was a lot of confusion out there. So this blog basically tries to clear up some of the confusion on how to think about Citrix Workspace and Microsoft Teams and why they are complementary to each other.
So Vishal, I've been thinking about this a lot. So is the future of Citrix to be that landing workspace where you go to get to all things like Win32 apps and desktops and SaaS apps and content, and Teams as part of that story? Or is this really talking about Teams being the landing spot and Citrix being part of the Teams story? Or is it both?
So that's a great point. And I think the answer is it depends on the way the end user wants to work, right? And why not give him the option on his preferred way of working? So the answer is actually both. And so the most important point here is that Citrix Workspace experience is just not an app. It's an experience which can be consumed via other tools like Microsoft Teams. And in future, there might be other interfaces where this experience might be consumed. And so the other way I like to think about this is like how we get our job done with using different interfaces. It used to be the full-blown apps, and then the mobile apps came along, and now we interface with Siri and Cortana and Alexa. So why not get our job done in a very similar way? It doesn't have to be a full-blown app. It doesn't have to be through Microsoft Teams, or it can be some other user interface like Alexa or Siri in future. But that's the whole point is let's give users choice and don't change the way they work. Give them an experience which they can consume from the tool they like the most.
So that's one of my favorite things about being a Citrix guy, right? Is the fact that Citrix doesn't try to control what users do. They try to conform and work within what users do or need. And sometimes that means providing multiple ways to be part of the integration and not just, my way or the highway kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me again, I'm going to talk futures here a little bit and it may or may not be on the roadmap. I no commitment, but why not have same integration with your native desktop, right? And pull it up in your Windows 10 notification center, or native iPhone integration, or iOS integration, or Android integration, right? So again, all these things, all the integration key insights and tasks, it doesn't have to be inside an app interface. It can be integrated into the local OS or your tools of your choice. So that's the point here, is give users tons of choice, his or her preferred way of working.
So one of the topics Bill and I have covered in the past around Workspace is the idea that this isn't new to some degree. Microsoft tried this with Active Desktop, which was overlaying Internet Explorer into the desktop, the actual desktop background. But what was, that was maybe ahead of its time. And also that was, in typical Microsoft fashion, that was Microsoft doing it their way and expecting people to do it their way. And in this case, maybe that is one of the things that Citrix is going to do, but it's not going to be the only way Citrix tries to tackle that one.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's you nailed it, right? It's give users a choice, and if they want to work and they feel better inside the Workspace interface, that may be the preferred way of working. But if some people want to work inside Microsoft Teams because that's where they collaborate with their team members, bring the experience there.
Yeah. Hey, so before we jump into maybe dissecting the article a little bit, Bill, your any additional thoughts to the intro section here?
Not really. I mean, really, I think Vishal described it pretty well the way I read it. We're really talking about integration on both sides, integration between the Workspace and Teams and the Teams and Workspace. So once again, like you said, Andy, Citrix is giving the user the choice, and the solution is going to integrate with either way. And I think that that's a positive thing for the user community.
I like the reference to Alexa. I mean, yeah. Well, I hope nobody's listening with an Alexa in the background. I just messed that up. But at my house, right? If you're in a central part of the house, or really in any room in the house at this point, if you need something, the first person you ask is Alexa, because that's my default, right? And if it gives me a surface level amount of information, great. If I need more, I'll go find it somewhere else. But I have at least one place to go for almost everything I need in terms of information, and it's listening all the time. That might be a bad thing, but it's listening all the time, and it's available. I think that's what Citrix is trying to do here, no matter what platform you're coming from with Workspace.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the integration we did with Microsoft Teams is actually pretty unique. So if you think about what really happens there is, like, you would probably spend most of your time, if you are a Microsoft Teams user, collaborating and chatting with your friends or your colleagues on Microsoft Teams. But there's going to be times while you're working inside Microsoft Teams that you need to interact with other applications like Concur or Workday or Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, and so on, right? So instead of doing context switching and switching outside Microsoft Teams, opening up another app, going inside the another app, logging in and trying to find your work and completing it, wouldn't it be nice if you can actually get information and tasks done from all those applications right within Microsoft Teams? So we thought about this idea and said, why don't we do this thing? And so luckily for us, Microsoft Teams actually provides a chatbot interface. Now, most ISVs have built or are trying to build this chat interface, but it's very specific to their own apps. For example, there might be a Concur chatbot for Microsoft Teams. So there might be a Salesforce chatbot or Microsoft Teams and so on. But, the problem still exists, which is, you'll have to switch between these different chatbots to actually ask and answer. And so you won't be able to kick a workflow between the different system of records per se. Now, the Citrix bot for Microsoft Teams will bring in all this information and tasks and activities right within Microsoft Teams interface, where you would be able to ask questions like, tell me, or show me all my expense reports, or show me all my open high priority tickets from ServiceNow, or what are my pending purchase orders from Salesforce or Ariba, right? Or simpler things like how many PTO days do I have? And complete those tasks or get information instantly. Now that's the power of actually kicking off simple workflows and automating tasks right within Microsoft Teams. And so the way I think about it is Teams becomes the new operating system for that user, right? I mean, we live within Explorer, we launch applications and we do our work, but we can probably change the way we work for better. And we see that on our mobile phones all the time, where, we are dealing with micro applications and you don't have full blown capabilities on your mobile phones, but that's okay. And the bot would be able to solve or simplify our daily work life using these things. So the Alexa example fits right in, right? What you told me about switching on lights on and off, you can do that. But if you want to do a bunch of other things, you may just want to go do it, right, on some other interface.
So let me see if I can rephrase what we're talking about here. So what Citrix is working on here is the ability to extend the bot capabilities of Microsoft Teams so that it brings in other applications using the APIs of those applications. And it's not one application at a time solving the challenge. It's a solution, a middleware. I love talking middleware when it comes to Citrix. Quite often people ask me what I do and I have to explain, I bring up Citrix. And of course, 2 or 3 years ago, they always went straight to GoToMeeting, that type of conversation. And after I explained it, that wasn't it. I would move on to the concept of middleware and mainframes and how Citrix connects you with your Microsoft world. In this case, it sounds like they're doing something similar, but for Teams, where it's taking Teams and using this bot and capabilities within Teams to extend that to all the other worlds using the APIs and making Teams more extensible beyond just the applications themselves and how they may integrate with Teams by themselves.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So this is called the Assistant for Microsoft Teams, at least at this point. Is that right, Vishal?
Yeah, it's basically a Citrix Assistant for Microsoft Teams. And, it's the same APIs and same micro apps as you would have in Citrix Workspace itself. So basically,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. You've taken some of the intelligence, as it were, that is built into the newer Citrix Workspace and or enabling that or bringing that to the surface within the Teams interface. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. In fact, the Citrix Workspace interface will have the exact same bot actually within the interface, Citrix interface itself. So as we were talking earlier on our call, right? It's the same experience, so the same bot being consumed by 2 different apps.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like a developer who writes like a method within their application. They're reusing the same code to go solve problems somewhere else.
Yeah. In fact, there is actually yet another integration, which I talk about in my blog, which is around, let's assume like how many times, you get a notification, maybe it's from ServiceNow or Ariba or you're within that application and you look at that information and you want to share that information with your colleague. It's too damn hard these days, right? You have to cut, copy, paste, maybe take a screenshot and then send it out to your colleague, right? So what we've also built is a capability in which any information card which is showing up in your workspace, you can send it to Microsoft Teams in a group chat directly from the workspace interface. For example, you see there might be a ticket whose status changed and you want to share that status with your team, or there might be a sales order which just closed and you want to congratulate everybody. and say, hey, look at the sales order closed, and send that notification directly into Microsoft Teams interface, and start a group chat. Or a Teams chat. So again, simplifying the way things happen, right? Is and just integrating it and then simplifying the user interface, like your consumer apps.
Well, I love that you talked about simplifying from two angles. One, to make it easier to do, which, I'm a big fan of using my snippet tool to take a screenshot and then email it or send it to someone somehow. I do the same thing on my phone all the time these days, which is fairly simple compared to the old days, but simple, but easy to do, which we continue to make things easier and easier to do. And then I love what you've really done here is not only you made it easier to do, you've made it easier to understand.
Yeah. So essentially all your information right from the workspace, you can share it inside Microsoft Teams right away. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is really slick. I mean, when I hear Microsoft Teams integration with the workspace, Andy, I go back to I think what you mentioned at the beginning, which is the real-time agent and the collaboration and voice and video and chat features where we're hosting it within a virtual desktop. I frankly wasn't aware that they had brought the level of development done on the workspace into the Teams interface until now, frankly. So this is good stuff, definitely.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting side parts of doing this podcast is we get to learn. I mean, all we're doing is learning on the fly and sharing that with people. So hopefully there's value in that to everybody. So Vishal, the second section of the article says cut down on content switching and do more engaging work. That's what we're talking about here. That's the part you're covering here with enabling people to do more within a single plane, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, if we, right from within Microsoft, Workspace interface, we want to make sure sharing information is really, really easy. And the first thing we have started is by integrating with Microsoft Teams, just because, tons and tons of Citrix customers, we see them using Microsoft Teams every day, and then they are asking for it. So the good news is there's a lot of customer validation here on that they would love to have this capability built right into Workspace. So really excited to bring this to the market actually pretty soon.
So let me see if I can recap what we've covered so far. So the first section was using the bot capabilities within Teams and extending that beyond Teams or applications one at a time and doing that more holistically. And then the second section of the article talks about from within Workspace being able to stay on task and work within Workspace and get things done, as well as share information all in that single place, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the third section of the article, it says optimize the Teams experience in your virtual environment. I think that might come back to what Bill was talking about, but what are you covering there?
Yeah, so actually that's some pretty exciting news as well. So Bill, you're absolutely right. Historically, when, if I talk to customers and I say Citrix and Microsoft Teams, immediately they would think about, optimizing Teams in a virtual environment. And so the first half of our podcast today, we covered, how we are integrating with Microsoft Teams beyond just optimizing it for the virtual environment. But this announcement this section actually covers some pretty significant announcement. So we have done Skype for business optimization, and we have had a huge success doing that. Now, as Microsoft is helping their customers migrate from Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams, a lot of Citrix customers have been asking for, optimizing Microsoft Teams, both, real-time audio and video right within virtualized environment. So around Synergy of this year, we announced that we can do this thing from the browser capabilities. But what we are announcing is our support for our Windows client, which will be able to now do this real-time optimization and support Microsoft Teams in a virtualized environment. Now, most people don't know that both Microsoft and Citrix teams have collaborated very, very closely for this optimization to actually happen. In fact, Microsoft Teams client for Windows will ship with some Citrix code inside it. So I want to stop here and say that again. It's amazing that Microsoft Teams client will actually ship with some Citrix code. It's a JavaScript inside it, which will enable it to know whether it's running in a virtualized environment or not. So there is no more plugin needed. I mean, if you remember, with the receiver, you needed a plugin, and for a VDA, you needed an update again on the both on the server side and then the client side. This is a much better integration in which, everything gets built into Workspace app, and there's a little code inside the VDA and Microsoft Teams. So there's no other add-ons or plugins a customer has to now install to make this integration actually work. So this is pretty fantastic from my point of view. So that's the announcement I wanted to highlight.
So Vishal, I don't understand that. I mean, Citrix and Microsoft are direct competitors, right? And isn't that what people think?
No, there's a lot of questions I get around Citrix and Microsoft being competitors, but the fact is, we've enjoyed more than 30 years of collaboration. In fact, the partnership is stronger than ever. Actually, there are multiple integration points now. We're helping Microsoft with their Azure consumption projects to being, around Microsoft Teams, whether it's integration with Intune, whether it's integration with Azure AD. There's integration all across all product lines and so on. And so yeah, as much as, there's this confusion sometimes in the market around Citrix and Microsoft, the fact is here is we are extending, we have always done this thing, right? We have always extended the core capabilities Microsoft provides and extend those capabilities for better enterprise scalability, management, and security.
Yeah, you can always tell when you're talking to the right person at Microsoft when they understand that. I mean, truth is, if you can solve what you're trying to solve, but with the Microsoft only stack, then you should do that. But, Citrix and partners like us, we realize that at some point there's going to be some use case, maybe very early on or halfway through or at the very end of a project where you find out that a lot of these things Citrix has worked on for 20 plus years still apply. And you're going to need that to get to the finish line. And, if it takes both companies working together to get to the finish line, that's better than not finishing.
Yeah, exactly. And, with that integration especially with now Windows virtual desktops and Microsoft Teams optimization, I believe there is, this space is just getting started. I mean, Microsoft has done a fantastic job at Windows virtual desktop, right? And introducing a new VM, which is Win10 multi-session VM. So our integration and customers' ability to now host Microsoft Teams there, right, and doing optimization, that will be huge.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Bill, anything else on this topic?
No, sir. I'm just fascinated to see that there's more to it than just what we had in Skype. It's very encouraging on how things are moving forward with Citrix and Microsoft and continue to get better.
Yeah, one of the funny things that for me, when I heard Vishal talking about the integration of the technology inside the Microsoft stack without having to add extra components, all of a sudden I got excited like I was still a consultant, and then I realized, I don't do projects anymore. So doesn't really directly apply to me, but I still got kind of excited that's the more of that happens, and you don't have to worry about downloading and installing a third party something or other, the better it is, and the more real and more doable it becomes. So, Vishal, that was great. I think we got through the article, and I think we've covered what's in there. Anything else that you would, while you got an audience that you'd want to share?
No, I mean, if you're listening and if you're a partner, just like XenTegra or SailSteam, we have Citrix Summit coming up. Yeah. So XenTegra, I would say you guys have been one of the best partners we have had. And, thank you for your great partnership.
No, absolutely. So yeah, Summit's coming up. So if you're a Citrix partner, you can definitely try to get there. We're going to have 25 people there this year from our team. We continue to add every year. And then, of course, Citrix Synergy will be in May. And I think last year we took right at 70 people to Synergy. And if you're listening and you're a Citrix customer and you're not going, definitely reach out to us. And we've got passes that we accumulate throughout the year and work with clients to pay for and other ways that we get it. We scrounge around. But if you're not going to Summit and you're a partner, or Synergy and you're a customer, definitely reach out to us and we'll see if we can't help you figure out how to solve that. All right. Well, Bill, anything you want to share before we drop here?
No, I just have one question for Vishal. I noticed at the end of the article, it indicated that you guys were at Microsoft Ignite demonstrating, or at least talking about some of the stuff we just talked about. I was curious how that went, how the interest was, if you were there or if you've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I will be very honest. So I was a little skeptical about how much interest this blog will generate at Microsoft Ignite, but I was blown away by how many customers stopped by at our booth and talked about, needing the integration, whether it was the bot integration with Microsoft Teams or just getting the Microsoft Teams optimization package. They just can't wait to get their hands on it. And there was an overwhelming interest from our customers. So, partners like XenTegra can absolutely help, integrate and even demo these capabilities. So I would, again, if you're listening, absolutely, talk to your XenTegra specialist to go talk, on how to showcase these capabilities.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was the answer, or at least I hope that was the answer. It kind of comes under the category of shouldn't ask those kind of things unless you know what the answer is. But I pretty much assumed it was going to be a strong interest.
So
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and to give you a scale, every 1 out of 4 attendees at Microsoft Ignite stopped by the Citrix booth this time. So the question going back to Citrix and Microsoft being competitors, that was clearly not the case. That's huge. More than 25% of the attendees stopped by our booth to ask about our partnership and integration and how we are working together. So that was great.
Very good.
So let's do a little. Let's try a little game here. Let's try something, Vishal. If I were to ask you 3 years ago how a Microsoft integrator or seller would have told you to get Windows 10 in the hands of an end user, how would they have done that?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been just go deploy it on the physical machine and do it that way, right? Most likely, or they would have said, if there was a Citrix and Microsoft guy, they would have said, hey, virtualize it through VDI.
Well, yeah, but your first answer was what I was looking for, right? You would have been told to get SCCM. Yep. And deploy Windows to the bare metal. Now, if you were to ask somebody in the Microsoft world, how they should be looking to get Windows 10 into the hands of an end user, how would they answer?
I think they would answer either virtualize it and deliver it through WVD is probably one of the best ways, and run it in the cloud as a virtual desktop.
Right. And what I'm really getting at there is the world has changed in the last probably 2 years, maybe 1 year. And the directive from Microsoft has changed immensely from a deployed world to a host and delivered world. And that's where this relationship with Citrix, even though it's been very successful up till now, is getting ready to be extremely successful, as well as other players in the space, because the default way of getting to your Windows world, especially for the business side of things, commercial enterprise space, is going to be virtualize it, which, that's what we've all been kind of hanging out waiting for the last 10 plus years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even if you're doing it on a physical thing through Intune and through Autopilot, there is still a play on how to deliver your enterprise applications there on those Windows, physical desktops or laptops, right? I mean, you still need to access some of your corporate applications, which may run on the server side, and you need access to them remotely because, the contingent workforce or, contract employees are just increasing in numbers. Like, look at you. You are remote today, and you probably need to work on your applications, which might be hosted inside. And so on.
I've been on my virtual desktop. I'm in Toronto. My virtual desktop's in Atlanta. I've been using it all day long. Didn't miss a beat.
Yep.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate both of you joining me. I look forward to doing this again. Vishal, if you ever have another blog that you proactively want us to do this with, we'd be happy to have you join us. And, with that, is there anything else outside of maybe what we've covered here, or that you would like to kind of let the world know that Vishal's got going on? It can be something Citrix related or totally off topic. This is your chance.
No, I think sounds good. This is thanks for the opportunity, Andy and Bill. Safe travels.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. Anything else before we go?
Nothing else from me. Thank you very much, Vishal, for joining. Very informative.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll do it again maybe this week, maybe next week, but for sure within the next 5 business days, for sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks Thanks for listening to the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton. A special thanks to our guests. Podcast produced by Pete Downing. Head over to XenTegra.com/podcast to listen to all podcasts in this series.